We don't, after all, do we, say happy 25th during Christmas time? But no, I am serious. But I want you to have a happy Independence Day. I hope that you're safe. I hope that you're with people who you love and care for dearly, and that you gather together to celebrate the traditions, the exceptionalism that is America, that's inspired by God, and all of this codified in our founding documents written by our founding fathers. America has founding documents that are inspired by God and written by men. And I hope that you all gather together and have a great time. This special today is my annual Independence Day history lesson, if you will. A look back at the 56 men, their stories and their lives, what they went through, all they endured for our independence. And to remind you, when you look at America and when you look at how we need to rescue her from the grip of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, always keep in mind the intent of the founding fathers, what they intended for this republic. You're seeing that great reawakening happen throughout the country with recent Supreme Court rulings and so forth, with the Make America Great Again movement inspired by and branded really by President Trump. We are getting back to the intent of the founders. One of the key intents of the founders is election day, not election month, not election year, not election week, but election day. Think about it. And I know that it can be inconvenient, but remember what our military men and women have done for us to secure and protect that right to vote, that sacred right that comes to us from God, second only to the right to life. The military men and women who have protected that right have gone to the battlefield and oftentimes have died to protect that right. So standing in line for 3 or 4 hours is really a small sacrifice to pay on election day for this right. Let's get back to that. And by doing so, we protect that right and we make our presence too big for others to rig, if you catch my drift. Happy Independence Day, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Happy Independence Day. 247 years ago, on July 4th, 1776, our Declaration of Independence was ratified by Congress at the time. I want to recall with you that time and pay particular attention to the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. It's no secret to any of you, I'm sure, any of you who have watched the program in the past. I am a huge fan, and I always have been, of Rush Limbaugh. And I recall Rush would always have special words to say to us on this, our American Independence Day. And I want to recall some of the words that he shared, partly from a speech that his father actually composed and gave. And I want to recall what our founders went through, and I want to look at that. I want to juxtapose it what we think we're going through today. I want to use portions of all of that, but much of this today is my perspective on what I think is a God-evident series of events that led up to our Declaration of Independence and what the signers had to endure as a result of putting their names on that document. You know, folks, in so many ways, we are comfortable today. Now, I'm not talking about what Biden and the Communist Socialist Party have done to this republic. I'm talking in general. In America, we still live a pretty comfortable life compared to the rest of the world. We see the tyranny all around us. There's no doubt about it. It causes some of us to panic, causes some of us to worry, causes some of you out there to lose hope. I have said since the day I started this program that America is not on her deathbed. America is a divinely inspired republic. It is not a democracy. The founders had great and rigorous debates about not making America a democracy. And what the founders did, what these 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence did, was to give us our first example of how local involvement in our communities can not only give birth to a republic, but how our local involvement today can save it. It's up to us to look to the founders for their example and what they went through and what they endured. And we juxtapose that against some of us out there who think that it's just too long and it's too much of an inconvenience to go sit in a school board meeting for 3 hours and voice our opinions to save our children. And then we look at what the founders did, what these 56 men who signed our Declaration of Independence, these founding fathers, what they did. And so today I want to tell you about this. Every one of the founding fathers, every one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence lost much. They lost wealth, they lost property, they lost health, they lost wives and children, and some of them lost their own lives. What are we prepared to do to earn what they have provided us? I guess that's the question today, because there were 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence of the United States, 56 men who risked absolutely everything in their lives, their family, their property, their health, and yes, their lives. On the morning of July 4th, 1776, our Congress got to work. There was a lot of work to do. The Declaration of Independence was not the only thing on the docket. They had to take up an emergency issue about arming Philadelphia, about helping Virginia. There was great debate about the Declaration of Independence. Make no mistake. It was read out loud for the umpteenth time. They had heard it before, and the debate about its verbiage continued. They wanted to fine-tune it a bit. Thomas Jefferson, as you know, was the primary author of the document with the help of and from John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, but Jefferson was the best writer among all of the founders. He tended to be loquacious, though, got wordy. And so the members of Congress began to edit and make revisions to the document. And I think all in all, they did a good job. You can look at the rough draft compared to the final document. They did a great job of coming together. And I think that, they all were men of God. They all prayed. They all believed in divine providence. And it's amazing to see the hand of God act, I think, through history as we look at the debates and we look at the questions that they had amongst themselves and what the final document looked like. There were, when it was all said and done, there was 86 variations that were made of this document. They took out 500 words, and the document in its final form contained 1,337 words. And so after a long 3 days of debating, of editing, finishing up our inaugural founding document, it was put to a vote. Look at that timeline, though. After 3 days, the same amount of time that Jesus spent in the tomb, right? It's an interesting correlation, I think. The colonies had been through a kind of a passion of their own, right? All the trials and the tribulations that they went through. And as the 56 founding fathers and the signers of the Declaration of Independence sequestered themselves in this tomb, so to speak, if you will, at the end of that 3-day period, they were resurrected as the United States of America. The colonies were resurrected. They went into the meetings as a series of colonies, and they came out as the United States of America, because on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted. And that wasn't the only issue. Like I said, it wasn't the only issue they debated during that time. There was no great fanfare after it was done. There was no parade. There was no, there was no party after this adoption of our nationhood. There was other pressing business they had to get to, and they knew it. So they met those obligations as well. But who were the 56? Who were they exactly? Do you know all of their names? I'm hoping that many of you have a copy of the Declaration of Independence handy at home or in your pocket. Some of you I know carry it with you on a daily basis. But these 56 men had just committed treason against the crown by signing and adopting this document. A few of them had names that we know now as household words. Jefferson, Adams, Hancock, Franklin. We all know them. They're the most famous of the signers. But I wonder if it dawns on us when we look at the Declaration of Independence that there are some significant names that are in fact not on that document. Where is George Washington's signature? What about Alexander Hamilton or Patrick Henry? Where are they? Well, they were off doing other business. George Washington was engaged in what you might remember as the Revolutionary War. And they were, all of these found, the 56 signers. They were young. They were young men. Far too often we look back in history and we view people of significance as being older. You know, it's famous, Jesus and his disciples. I always comment on this when it comes up. The movies portray the apostles as these older men in their 40s and 50s, and that's just absolutely not true. They were young men, boys, practically, ranging in age from 16 to 23. And so it is with these 56 young men. They were young. Benjamin Franklin was really the only truly old guy in the group. Of the 56 signers, 18 of them were under the age of 40. 3 of them were in their 20s. Almost half of them, 24 to be exact, were judges and lawyers. 11 of them were merchants. 9 were landowners and farmers. And the remaining 12 were doctors, ministers, and politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, meet your 56 signers, the founding fathers of this republic. All but one of the 56 signers were men of wealth and property, which in those days equated to substantial wealth through primarily land. Samuel Adams was not as rich as the rest. He's, of course, from Massachusetts. They all had education. They all had standing within their communities. And they had really what very few people had in the 18th century, and that is financial security. And every one of them had much more to lose from committing revolution than they ever would have had to gain from it. As one of the richest men in America, John Hancock had already captured the attention of the British soldiers and England, King George, when he put a 500-pound bounty on him. Hancock knew it, and that's why he signed his name in such big letters, so as to say to King George, hey, look, you can read this without the help of your spectacles. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to continue the story here, the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, on this, my special Independence Day show. Don't forget to head over to DougBillings.us, please, ladies and gentlemen. DougBillings.us, this is how we support the show, and you support me in doing it. So DougBillings.us, please click on that support tab. If this show means anything, $5, whatever you can afford, a voluntary subscription every month to DougBillings.us. You can do it over there. You can also do it on an annual basis if you prefer. Head over to DougBillings.us. And in the meantime, on this Independence Day special, we're going to be right back after these messages. God bless you. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at www.foundation.com. that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where I am with every breath I take and every move I make, fighting to restore the divine providence of God to this republic. On our Independence Day special, we're talking about the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, the founding fathers of our republic. And, you know, they're in this room. They've committed treason against the crown. The crown knows these people. They've made a list, and these men are on it. And they're in Congress. They've met in Philadelphia. And can you just imagine the heaviness of the moment that must have settled in among them as they signed their names to that document? The greatest fighting force in the world, England, was going to be coming after them individually and coming after our fledgling republic. Continuing on with some of the signers, the 56 signers, Benjamin Franklin, you all well known, he summed it up, you know, this heaviness that was around them and the magnitude of what they had just done. He said, "Indeed, we must all hang together, otherwise we will most assuredly hang separately." A little play on words there, but you know what he's talking about. If we don't stick together in this, if we don't have each other's backs, they're going to hang us individually or they're going to hang us all together. And to that, there was another Benjamin among these 56 signers, Benjamin Harrison, who was a portly man, a bit overweight. And he said to them, "With me, it'll all be over in a minute, but you'll be dancing on air for an hour after I'm gone." And isn't that just like how a lot of people behave when they're under incredible pressure? They make jokes. And that's what they were doing here, back and forth. And often, as the jokes do, they reveal the inner strife, the inner conflict that the comedian is going through who's telling the joke. And they were going through, they knew they were going to be hung if they were caught. That was the penalty for what they had just committed, treason against the crown. They all knew what they risked. And if you remember, again, your civics and your history lessons in July of 1776, there was this thing called the Revolutionary War going on, and there was a huge, powerful British fleet anchored off in New York Harbor. So this threat of what they were doing was real. It was palatable. And these were serious men. These were not snowflakes. These were people who had no early signs of wokeism within them. They didn't shirk responsibility, but they embraced it without even thinking twice about it. How severe of a loss of responsibility do we see in our republic, especially among our young people today, but among us old timers as well? People just shirk responsibility. But these men didn't complain. They were doing the work of what we call determined patriotism over here. They viewed it as their moral duty, determined patriotism, doing the daily work, the work that's hard. Patriotism is tough. If you want to save this republic, it's about getting involved and going to a school board meeting, for example, that may last 3 hours. It's about becoming an election observer, a poll watcher, volunteering to do those things. That's how we get the republic back. That's how the republic was given to us, by local involvement of 56 founding father heroes. These men were not fanatics. They weren't riotous. They weren't clashing outdoors in violent protests. They were our first examples of peaceful local involvement that can change the course, and in fact, not only the course of our own republic, but the course of the planet's history. Peaceful debate, drafting of a document, ratification of the document, and there it is. And everything that they risked was in those words and was sealed and codified with their signatures. Think about it. What they were searching for, what they really wanted at the time when they were going through this was just the status quo. That was the changes that were coming upon them is what they resisted. The changes being enforced from and by England. It was equality with England that they wanted. It was taxation with representation that they wanted. All of them, ladies and gentlemen, and this, you would be well to remember this, all of them were conservatives by nature and religious men who believed in God and his divine providence. And in this document, our Declaration of Independence, with these words, they rebelled against the tyranny which sought to prevent them from achieving God's independent plan for his republic and for his intention of what would become America. The pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, and the rights that come to us from God and codified in this document were being sworn to by these 56 men. And it was God. It was not money. It wasn't status. It wasn't property, which called these men to gather in together in Philadelphia to sign this document. It was the will and the providence and the calling and the beckoning of God. You see, our founding documents are inspired by God and written by men. Of the 56 men that gathered in Philadelphia that day, 2 of them became presidents of the United States. 7 of them became state governors. 1 of them died in office as vice president of the United States. Several of them would go on to become United States senators. 1 of them would become a delegate from Philadelphia. He was the only real poet and musician and philosopher of all of the signers, and his name was Francis Hopkins, who really was the one who designed the United States flag, not Betsy Ross. It was Francis Hopkinson, excuse me. There was Richard Henry Lee. He was a delegate from Virginia. He introduced the resolution to adopt the Declaration of Independence in June of 1776, a month earlier. He was prophetic, though, in his concluding remarks when he said this, and I'm going to quote directly from his writings. "Why then, sir, why do we longer delay? Why still deliberate? Let this happy day give birth to an American republic. Let her arise not to devastate and to conquer, but to reestablish the reign of peace and of law. The eyes of Europe are fixed upon us. She demands of us a living example of freedom that may exhibit a contrast in the felicity of the citizen to the ever-increasing tyranny which desolates her shores. She invites us to prepare an asylum where the unhappy may find solace and the persecuted riposte. If we are not this day wanting in our duty, the names of the American legislatures of 1776 will be placed by prosperity and posterity at the side of all whose memory has been and ever will be dear to virtuous men and good citizens." End quote. And some people, now this is an aside, but because of the nuances of history, some people are confused as to when the Declaration of Independence was officially adopted. But be certain, ladies and gentlemen, it was July 4th, 1776. However, it wasn't until July 8th that 2 of the states authorized their delegates to go ahead and sign it. It was already adopted. There was 2 states that still needed to send delegates to sign it, and that happened on August 2nd. Of 1776. Those signers met in Philadelphia. They signed the document. It didn't mean that it hadn't already been adopted. It was adopted again on July 4th, 1776. And in his diaries and his journals, one of the founders of the 56, William Ellery, he wrote about his curiosity. He wanted to see the signers' faces because, again, folks, these people knew. They knew what they were up against. I'm going to talk about William Ellery and what he thought everybody's faces would look like when they signed the Declaration of Independence. I'll talk about that when I get back from this break. Ladies and gentlemen, DougBillings.us. Please head over there, DougBillings.us. Click on the support tab at the top of the website. $4, $5, $6, $10, $20, whatever a month that you can afford to help us keep this show going. Please consider a voluntary subscription to DougBillings.us. I'll be right back on our Independence Day special. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please, go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know, Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we express viewpoints from the side of light, logic, wisdom, and truth. Right here, while we save the republic from the tyranny of the left, those intellectually immature members of the left. Look, they don't talk about the founding fathers and the documents of our founding at all, really, do they? They certainly don't believe in the divine providence of God and what these men, they don't talk about what these, they don't even call us a republic. You notice that? They propagandize us all of the time. The members of the elected class, members of the media, they continually call us a democracy. You know, our democracy is under attack. Billings is a threat to our democracy. Whatever. We're not a democracy, folks. We are a constitutional republic. I just refer to us as a republic for short. The founding fathers wanted that to be the case. And again, they had specific debates about not being a pure democracy. So we're talking about, on this Independence Day, our 56 founding fathers, the signers of the Declaration of Independence. And I began to tell you a story about William Ellery, because everybody who was signing this document, you know, set the stage. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but it was a heavy, heavy, heavy moment. They had just committed treason by signing the document and agreeing to the document. It was ratified, and now they're treasonous against the crown. William Ellery said, he was writing in his journals, he wanted to see the curiosity on the faces. He wanted to see what they look like as they signed this document, because it was a heavy deal. And he made that note in his diary. He said, "But in no face was I able to discern real fear." And picking up on that, another founder, one of the 56, Stephen Hopkins. He was Ellery's colleague from Rhode Island. Now, Hopkins was over 60 years old. And as he signed the document, he had a shaky hand. And he said to those in the room, he said, "My hand trembles, but my heart does not." So I like these stories. And I could go on and on. We could be here for a few hours instead of just the 1 hour that I have with you. But the British had, some time ago, and before this list of signers was published, they had identified each member of Congress, the British had, who was suspected of signing the document and suspected of treason, suspected of writing it, and so forth. And every one of these 56 signers was hunted viciously. Some of them were captured. Some of them, like Thomas Jefferson, had narrow escapes. All of them suffered, whether it was from loss of property, of family, or lives, or spouses. They all suffered. Francis Lewis, another signer, he was a delegate from New York, and he saw his home absolutely pillaged. His estates in what is now Harlem were destroyed by British troops. Mr. Lewis was captured. He was treated with viciousness. I mean, it was animalistic. And although he was later exchanged for two British soldiers who were prisoners at the time, the Congress came through for him and secured his release. But he died as a result of that treatment that he received in the British prisons. William Floyd, another founder, another signer. He was from New York. He was able to escape with his wife and his children across the Long Island Sound to Connecticut, where they lived as refugees without any income for 7 years. And when they came home, like so many of them, they found their home completely in ruins. There was Philip Livingstone. He had all of his great holdings in New York confiscated. His family driven out of their home. Livingstone died in 1778, still working in Congress, still working for the American cause of the Republic. Lewis Morris, he was the 4th New York delegate, saw all of his timber, all of his crops, his farm, his livestock were taken. 7 years he was barred from seeing his home and his family. And John Hart, he was from Trenton, New Jersey. He risked his life to return home to see his wife, who was dying. There were Hessian soldiers who were riding after him, but he escaped into the woods. Now, while his wife lay there on her deathbed, the soldiers ruined his farm, burned it, wrecked his homestead, completely obliterated it. And Hart, who was 65 at the time, slept in caves and in nearby woods as he was hunted across the countryside. When finally, after he was emancipated by hardship, he was able to sneak home, he found his wife had already been buried. His 13 children had been taken away. Ladies and gentlemen, he never saw them again. He died a broken man in 1779 without ever finding his family. Dr. John Witherspoon, he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, one of our founding fathers, president of the College of New Jersey, which would later become Princeton. The British occupied the town of Princeton. You ever been to Princeton? Lovely town. I've been to the university. Of course, it's a raging hub of liberalism, but a beautiful place nonetheless, especially in the fall. But the British troops had occupied the town of Princeton and the college campus. They quartered troops there. They trampled it. They demolished it, and they burned the finest college library in our country. Another signer, one of our founding fathers, Judge Richard Stockton. He was another New Jersey delegate. He was a signer. He had rushed back to his estate in an effort to evacuate his wife and his children. They found refuge with friends, but there was a Tory sympathizer in the neighborhood who betrayed them. So Judge Stockton was pulled from bed in the middle of the night, brutally beaten by the arresting soldiers. He was thrown into a common jail and deliberately starved. Now, Congress finally arranged for Stockton's parole and his freedom, but his health was already ruined. The judge was released as an invalid. When he could no longer harm the British cause, the British felt okay to release him. He returned home to find his estate looted, and he did not live to see the triumphant ending to the revolution. His family, after his death, was forced to live off of charity. Robert Morris. He was called the Merchant Prince of Philadelphia, very wealthy. He was a delegate from Philadelphia, a signer of the Constitution. He met all of George Washington's appeals for money year after year. It was Robert Morris who always came through. He made and raised arms and provisions that made it possible for Washington to cross the Delaware at Trenton. And in the process, Morris lost 150 ships at sea, bleeding his own fortune and his credit almost completely dry. Just a few of the founding father stories. We've got a few more to go here, ladies and gentlemen, as we go through our Remembrance Day of the independence of the United States, our Constitution, its founding fathers, the 56 men who signed the document. Please head over to dougbillings.us, ladies and gentlemen. Click on the support tab at the top of that page. Choose to donate a monthly contribution voluntarily. The show was always for free. We never charge you to listen to or to watch the show. That's how we keep the show going over there. dougbillings.us, please. $5, $6, 10, 20, whatever you can afford on a monthly basis. dougbillings.us. We'll be right back after this short break. God bless you. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House, and I want to tell you about Numi. This is a swish. You just take 2 capfuls, swish it around your mouth for 3 to 4 minutes, and you're absorbing, according to the studies, glutathione. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. There are over 162,000 studies on PubMed on the power of glutathione. It is a powerful molecule that studies show detoxes our cells. Some studies even show that, well, glutathione might remove mercury from our brains, help to prevent things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Now look, I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you what the research is showing about the powerful molecule glutathione. Numi is the product that contains glutathione. Melissa and I swish with this twice a day. We urge you to go to Numi.com/house1. That's Numi, Neumi.com/HOWSE and the numeral 1. Begin finding out about the power of glutathione while also supporting this broadcast network. Thank you. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where I'm standing with you shoulder to shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in this together. We are going to see the rebirth of the divine providence of God in this republic as we've never seen before in this country. I think it'll be more evident even than what was evident during the time of our founding fathers. And we're remembering today our Independence Day, the 56 men who signed the document of our Declaration of Independence. And we're working our way through them here, calling them out by name, giving them recognition, understanding what they all went through. There was a founder, one of the delegates from Pennsylvania, George Clymer. He escaped all of the hunting from the British troops with his family from their home, but their property, like so many of the other founding fathers, completely destroyed by the British during the Germantown and the Brandywine campaigns during the Revolution. There was also Dr. Benjamin Rush. He was also from Pennsylvania, who was forced to flee to Maryland. He was a heroic surgeon within the Army. He had several narrow escapes during this process. He likewise, with so many others, hunted viciously by the British. John Martin. Now, John was a Tory in his previous life. He even during the debates leading up to all of this, he had still remained loyal to the crown. But it was the debates themselves, the debates for independence, that changed his mind. And he came out as a man for independence. Most of his neighbors, some of his relatives criticized him for it. John Martin was described as a sensitive and a troubled man in some ways. Many believed that his actions and his behaviors ended up killing him in the long run. And when he died in 1777, to his credit, and I tell you, these words, these men, they knew what they were doing, and they knew what they were going through, and they looked back at all of this with no regret. In 1777, on his deathbed, he said, "Let them," and he's talking about all of the people that would doubt him or call him a traitor or whatever, Tell them that they will live to see the hour when they shall acknowledge it, meaning the signing of the Declaration of Independence. They shall acknowledge it to have been the most glorious service that I have ever rendered to my country. So even though the hardships and the persecutions that took place after signing it, he looked to that moment, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and all that it meant as the most glorious service that he had ever rendered to his country. Just absolutely astonishing, I think, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to William Ellery. Now, he was from Rhode Island. He also saw his home and his property, all of his holdings, burnt to the ground. Thomas Lynch Jr. Thomas Lynch Jr. was from South Carolina. He had his health broken from privation and exposures while serving as a company commander in the military. His doctors told him that he ought to go seek help in the West Indies. So he took their advice, went on a voyage. He took his young wife with him, and they were both drowned at sea, ladies and gentlemen. The three South Carolina delegates and signers were Edward Rutledge, Arthur Middleton, and Thomas Haywood Jr. They were carried out as prisoners of war. They were transferred to St. Augustine, Florida, where they were singled out, of course, for all of what they did here. They were exchanged at the end of the war by the British, but the British had completely devastated and burnt all of their land holdings, all of their estates. They were left with nothing. Thomas Nelson from Virginia. He was a front commander in the Virginia military forces, and with British General when Cornwallis was in Yorktown, he was taking fire from heavy American guns, 70 of them to be exact. The American cannons began to destroy Yorktown. This was towards the end of the war. Yorktown being destroyed piece by piece, house by house. Lord Cornwallis and his staff moved their headquarters into Thomas Nelson's palatial home. He had a gorgeous place. And while American cannibals were making shambles of the town, the house of Nelson remained untouched. Now, Nelson turned. He was enraged at this. He looked at the American gunners and he asked them, "Why aren't you firing on my home? Why do you spare my home?" And they said, "Well, sir, out of respect for you, sir." Nelson shouted back at him, "Give me the cannon." And he took the cannon and he began firing on his own home. And he demolished it. But these were not the end of Nelson's sacrifices, folks. He had raised $2 million for the revolutionary cause. I don't know the equivalent, but a bunch of money. By those standards, a bunch of money. $2 million. He pledged his own estates. He put it up for credit and so forth. When these loans came due, the newer peacetime Congress that was in charge at the time refused to honor those loans. Can you imagine? And Nelson's property was forfeited. He was never reimbursed. He died impoverished a few years later at the age of 50, only 50 years old. Abraham Clark, he was from New Jersey. He gave 2 sons to the officer corps in the Revolutionary War. They were in the army. They were captured and sent to the infamous British prison battleship afloat out in New York Harbor. It was called the Hell Ship Jersey because 11,000 American captives died there. The younger Clarks, these 2 boys, were treated with a special kind of brutality because of their father. One was put in solitary confinement, given no food. And with the end of the war almost in sight, with the war almost won, no one could have blamed Abraham Clark for acceding to the British request. Now, the British offered them his sons' lives if he would recant and come out for the king and for the parliament and say no to American independence. Can you imagine this man? In the despair, the anguish in his heart, in his soul. I think it reaches across the centuries to each one of us, down through 247 years, with his answer, no. He did not betray his co-signers, his co-founding fathers. He did not betray his new country. And his sons were lost. The 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, I think, ladies and gentlemen, have proven, obviously by their actions, that they made no idle boasts when they composed what has got to be the best, as they say in the business, the best curtain line in history, the best closing line in any document in mankind's history. And that closing line, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Folks, get your copy of the Declaration of Independence out and read it today. Read it this week. Many of us at Christmas time, we sit around and we read the story of the nativity of Jesus Christ, how his parents took him from Egypt to Nazareth, the wise men, the star, the birth of our Savior. We read that story from Scripture every Christmas Eve. Can I suggest to you, please, ladies and gentlemen, that you begin a new tradition in addition to that one? And on this night, the night of our Independence Day, read the Declaration of Independence with your family. Gather them around you. Before the fireworks, before the adult beverages and all of the family fun begins, read it slowly and with feeling. Read it with your friends standing around waiting for the festivities to begin. Read it and make it a prayerful read. Make it a night that we remember the birth of our republic, ladies and gentlemen. And remember that their local involvement, the founding fathers, their local involvement gave birth to this nation. And your local involvement can be the rebirth of it, to retrieve it from the grip of tyranny that has had it since 2020 and beyond and before then. Your local involvement can save the republic from this commu-socialist grip that was once known as a Democratic Party that has now transformed itself into an anti-American, anti-founding father movement. Your local involvement, you can do it. Together we will. Give yourselves permission to believe this, ladies and gentlemen. Have a blessed, happy Independence Day. And let us remember the founders, all 56 of them, what they did, what they endured, what they provided us. And may we, with the grace of God and his divine providence, never lose it.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at www.foundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House, and I want to tell you about Numi. This is a swish. You just take 2 capfuls, swish it around your mouth for 3 to 4 minutes, and you're absorbing, according to the studies, glutathione. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. There are over 162,000 studies on PubMed on the power of glutathione. It is a powerful molecule that studies show detoxes our cells. Some studies even show that, well, glutathione might remove mercury from our brains, help to prevent things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Now look, I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you what the research is showing about the powerful molecule glutathione. Numi is the product that contains glutathione. Melissa and I swish with this twice a day. We urge you to go to Numi.com/house1. That's Numi, Neumi.com/house1. HOWSE and the numeral 1. And begin finding out about the power of glutathione.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm sure you've had this experience when you were a child growing up that you broke something, or at least I had that experience on a number of occasions. It's one thing if you break a window that can be fixed, and I've broken several of those in my baseball playing days, but I remember also breaking a sugar bowl that belonged to not just my mom, but to my grandmother, or I think they said it was great-grandma's. And it was a sad moment because, you know what, the pieces were so small and so scattered that we could never get them all together, and we certainly couldn't put them back together, although I tried. And that's kind of what brings me to the title of our program today, Broken, Can It Ever Be Fixed? Because I really believe today that we have the idea that, okay, things aren't going well for the world, things aren't going well for the United States, maybe things aren't even going well for you as a family or as an individual. But somehow we're all going to just, like a cat that you throw out the window, and no matter how many times it twists and turns, it always seems to land on its feet. I don't know that the world's going to recover like that. I think we have something broken. I think the sugar bowl is broken. And the question is, can it ever really be fixed? And I say that because here's a passage in 2 Chronicles, Old Testament passage, the last chapter of 2 Chronicles, and it says this in verse 14, moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after the abominations of the nations and polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. Can you believe that among those that were polluting the sacraments of the Lord and transgressing, they were the priests, the chief priest, as a matter of fact. Unbelievable, isn't it? But the verse goes on and says, and the Lord God of their fathers sent to them by his messengers rising up early, sending because he had compassion on the people and on his dwelling place. So God was touched by the common person that was being abused. He had compassion on his dwelling place. The Bible says that he loves the area of Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, and the temple. Listen to this. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, misused the prophets, until the wrath of God arose against his people, till there was no more remedy. I think it's one of the saddest phrases in all the Bible, till there was no more remedy. And that's why I talk about this idea, broken, can it ever be fixed again? Or how about in Romans chapter 1, where it talks about this, wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own heart, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. And it talks about the fact that they are inexcusable. You see, always before we feel like, okay, it's like a kid and he's going to go into timeout. He's going to somehow or another find the good graces of God. But there's going to come a time, and I think we're approaching that time, when we pass the point of no return. And today I'm going to look at about 3 or 4 subjects. I think we're on the brink of offending a holy God. We've offended him, but I think we're on the brink of saying that there's no recourse for it. There's no taking it back. And so I want to look at the idea of the churches. I want to look at the idea of this whole woke business. I know people are saying, why do you bring it up almost 2 or 3 times a week? Here's why. It's a special month. And you know what? I'm finding if we're not careful, people are becoming very tolerant of this, saying, well, yeah, it's a part of life today. No, it's not a part of life today. It's not what God planned. It's not what God wants. And it's not what we should commit our children to. And so that's why I'm willing to say, let's take a stand on it. I want to take a stand where God takes a stand. There are some things that I don't know that it's worth the fight. Okay? Whether the wall of the church is blue or green or yellow or striped, I don't care. But there's some things that are going on that I think we really say, you know what, that does not please God. And as we continue to do so, Maybe he's going to strip away the hand of blessing that he's given to us. Maybe he's going to strip away the hand of protection that he's given to us. And so I want to begin with our first clip, and this man will introduce it. But of all things, it's at a United Methodist Church conference. Listen to how they introduce each other.
This is a real conference of the United Methodist Church of North Carolina. This is where we've arrived in America, right here.
Becca Gorell, Clergy, New England Annual Conference, She, Her, Hers, Queer White Adult. I'm very sorry to do this.
Bishop Thomas Lang, Deacon, Greater New Jersey, Adult White Male.
Thank you, Bishop. Good morning, friends. I am Scott Brewer, a cisgendered white lay male delegate from the Great Plains Conference.
Go ahead.
My name is Carol Zagsma, Clergy Delegate from Minnesota, white, female, gay, adult, with pronouns she and her.
And my name's Andy Hendren, white, male, straight, adult.
My name is Stacy Current, California, Nevada, clergy, black woman.
Sherry Hiller, Oklahoma Annual Conference, laity, white, adult, female.
I am black, Haitian American, woman, adult, and I think that's it for demographic.
Thank you, Bishop. Alberto Hidalgo, lay delegate from Indiana, gay man, he, him.
Matt Daly, I am a white young adult lay person from the Florida Conference.
Imagine if we just identified ourselves as children of God. I think he'd be happy about that.
Well, maybe one reason, because I don't think all these people are born again. I don't know that they're all children of God. You know what? The system's broken. This is supposedly a church conference, and that's how we have to introduce ourselves. In other words, it's more important about who I am, what my pronouns are, than it is anything else we're doing. Wow, somewhere that's broken, and I don't think it can ever be fixed. I can tell you this, that denomination is going to be taken over by the homosexual movement, by the LGBTQ, and it will never recover. Because you see, they push their way to the front. No wonder they're making poor decisions on other items of the church. Wow, what a tragedy. We're living in the midst of all this. But we're not done. Look at this one. This has to do with, it's in Canada. And notice how they blend nature to the LGBT movement, how they bring about kids into it. The whole idea is to brainwash our kids, and we will never recover if they capture the children.
Acknowledge that Siloam United Church is situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape-Wauk.
There is room for all in the shadow of God's wing.
Good morning. Happy Pride. Oh, we can do better. Happy Pride. Please join me in a responsive affirmation. This is adapted from our vision statement when we became an affirming ministry. At Siloam United Church, everyone is a child of God, and all God's children belong.
Everyone belongs, no exceptions.
As followers of Jesus and his message of love, inclusion, and justice, we affirm and celebrate the qualities, characteristics, and gifts of every human being.